Hey, Business 163. Hey, welcome back. Sorry we weren't able to have a class meeting on Monday, but I do hope that you are staying safe and dry and everything is recovering now that we've had this couple of days worth of just an absolute deluge of flood on us. But I did want to still release our next module, which, as you can see, is our second midterm exam. Midterm exam number 2. So let me tell you a little bit about what to expect on this exam. That's really what this little short video is intended as, and to give you some logistics. So this midterm exam will be 35 questions long. The first midterm was 40 questions, so this is a little shorter. 35 questions. 30 of them will be multiple choice, 5 of them will be true-false, and it will cover modules 6, 7, and 8. So a little bit shorter coverage as well. Shorter exam and less modules. Okay, so module 6, module 7, and module 8. So we're going to chat now about what to expect, what you will need to know in order to take this midterm. Now, the midterm itself will be open on, I believe I'm opening it on Wednesday. It'll be open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm giving you till Sunday to complete the exam, so you have plenty of time to study. And of course, if you've been tracking along with the class, I'm sure that all of this material is pretty familiar to you. All right, so let's dive into Module 6 then, just so you know what kinds of things you need to be studied up on for this exam. All right, Module 6 is on reducing spending. You may remember that, right? So we talked about some things like searching for value. What is value, right? We talked about when we're buying and we're thinking of buying things, what does brand try to convey to us, and why is that a good thing, and why is that sometimes not such a good thing? Or I should say, maybe, what is some of the presuppositions or presumptions we have when we consider brands, and how should we adjust our shopping in light of our own biases about brands, right? There are some notable pitfalls and advantages to shopping online. You should review that, be familiar with that. As well as we have given you a few different techniques to reduce our food spending. We have already mentioned several times in this class, of course, that food is one of those areas that our spending can sort of, run out of control without us ever realizing it. So we did give you some ideas, some techniques to reduce your food spending, or at least getting it under control, right? And all of this sort of revolves around the big concept of opportunity cost. So that's really the underlying premise of this entire module, Module 6. So you ought to take a look and review what is the concept of opportunity cost. Now that is pretty much the stuff we're going to ask you from module number 6. All right, module number 7 is the module on savings and banking. So you'll need to know, what does it mean, this little phrase, money never sleeps, and what is that trying to convey, especially in terms of our use of savings, right? So we also discussed very, very briefly what is the difference between savings and investing, and you'll want to review those concepts, the difference between saving and investing. You'll need to be familiar with the guidelines that we gave you in terms of targeting an amount for your emergency fund. We talked about emergency funds or rainy day funds, and how we might, depending on our life circumstances and our income circumstances, how we might adjust what's an appropriate target amount to set up for that. And then we also talked about, with regards to especially setting up an emergency fund, what is a sprint? What does a sprint help you accomplish? What is it? What is it perhaps not? And so you should be familiar with that content as well. What else from Module 7? We then talked about, well, if we finally convinced you need to bulk up your savings, where do you put it? And so we talked about traditional versus online banking. What are the pros and cons of those as vehicles? And then we talked about 3 popular types of savings accounts, that being the traditional savings account, the money market account, and the certificate of deposit. So you should be familiar with the distinctions between those 3 categories of types of accounts. Then finally, we ended that module with the whole return of behavioral finance. Specifically, why is savings so difficult for all of us? Why is it difficult for us to get started with, to stay on track with? What are some of the issues there? And of course, then we get into the roots of some cognitive biases that we have that make it difficult for us to stay on track with our savings. And we gave you some techniques on ways to make it a little easier, some tools or techniques, methods to make saving easier on all of us. All right, that's the coverage from Module 7. Finally, with Module 8, we talked about the whole concept of credit and debt. And so there's several concepts to bone up on from Module 8. The whole idea of debt or leverage. What's good about, potentially, what's good about debt and leverage? What does it enable you to do? As well as what makes debt attractive to us as consumers. Why is it seemingly so easy to use debt and credit to buy things? What's attractive about it? And also, of course, that makes it dangerous. What's the risk involved with debt? We talked about that in this module as well. And so finally, we turn our attention then in the rest of this module, the whole idea about getting a handle on debt, right? What's the whole concept of credit history, and how is that related to and different than our credit score? Okay, so you'll want to review that information about credit scores, what factors affect your credit score, and by how much. And remember, the categories of things that affect, or the factors that affect your credit score, don't all affect your score to the same degree, right? You want to be familiar with that. And then we also talked about just the whole concept of getting an automobile loan, getting a loan to purchase a car. We talked a little bit about that. We also talked a little bit about mortgage loans and what do mortgage loans allow you to do, and what's good about them, what's perhaps not so good about them, right? And then finally, we ended this entire module with a couple of different techniques, how to accelerate your payoff of debt, how to get a handle on your consumer credit. Gave you at least 2 different strategies for that. So those are all things you should be reviewing and be boned up on for the exam. All right, again, just to close this little video out, the exam, it will be released later this week and be available to you all the way out through Sunday. You will have 2 hours to complete 35 questions. All righty, so hopefully that provides you a good overview of what to be prepared for the exam. And as always, if you have any questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to get a hold of me. Happy to try and clear things up. Again, wish that I had, we had a class meeting to do this, but with the campus closure, we're going to give you this review this way in this video instead. All righty. Good luck on the exam. Do great on it. I expect it should be very straightforward for you. And a little shorter and easier than the first midterm. All righty? So we will see you again in next week's normal Zoom meeting. Take care. Great, and wish you very great luck on the exam.